Hidemi Woods. I love talking to Hidemi. Just the kindness, just the true meaning of an artist. She's out of Tokyo, Japan, and she's created two songs. She's written a couple of books. A fascinating life of her parents wanted her to be in the family business, and she insisted on, being an artist, being a musician, and what happened there, and a great Japanese band that I was unfamiliar with, Tulip. One of the lead guitarists uh, inspired her, and she would always go see them. His name, Tachiyuki Abe, uh, and then he ended up dying, and so she, channels him through her music and the way she does it, and just the way the Japanese culture defines discipline. Absolutely fascinating how her grandparents were extremely disciplined and her parents were not. And then when she left Osaka, a small town, and went to the big city of Tokyo, how she was undisciplined and things started to falter. And just so fascinating, just so fascinating her process, how she heard these two songs, Lousy Neighbor and Sunrise, in her head and took 10 years to finally record them. It's just absolutely amazing. Another thing I learned how important New Year's Day is in Japan. And they have dreams, and if your dream has these three items, that it's good luck. I'll tell you the first two. You're not going to believe the third. The first was Mount Fuji, the mountain. The second is an eggplant. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Very excited to speak to you, Hidemi Woods. Konnichiwa. How are you? And thank you so much.
こんにちは.
Thank you so much for doing this. And you started creating music because your inspiration was this musician and your favorite band, the Tulip. We'll get to that in a moment. And you say now that when you make music, Mr. Abe, is still in your heart. Can you explain how that
Yes,
works?
deeply, deeply in my hand. Well, Mr. Abe, Toshiyuki Abe, was the guitarist of a Japanese band called Tulip, and I was very much influenced by Tulip when I was young. And actually, it was the big reason for me to become a musician, to decide to be a musician. And I like that band so much. And especially the guitarist, Mr. Abe, was my kind of a hero.
Hmm.
And his attitude toward making music and his playing, and everything was, I admired him so much. And but I I was just a teenage fan of that band back then. But after I really made a decision to become a musician myself, um, I still kept listening to their music to inspire myself. But so Tulip was a very big um, stone to inside of inside of me. But a few years ago, Mr. Abe passed away suddenly, and I felt so empty. I
Mm,
mean, part of myself, I was, while I was creating my own music, I kind of believed I would see him someday and he would listen to my music. It was part of my dreams, but it disappeared all of a sudden. And
mm.
that feeling, that loss, was quite a few big experience, grave experience for me.
Yeah,
But
you talk about your
and
sorry.
oh, and I but I eventually I moved on, but uh, I still think by making my own music, I still hope he will listen to me, listen to my music from above. And when I make arrangements for my song, I always think when I make the guitar part, especially, I think how if this if Mr. Abe played this part, how he would play.
Mm.
And I imagined his playing and I adapt his guitar play to my song. I'm
And
still
that's
doing that.
yeah, and that's really the best way to honor him. I Your book, of Japanese Dream, which is excellent, and I was able to listen to it in your own
Thank
voice.
you.
But you talk about being a teenager and the band Tulip. I hadn't heard of Tulip,
Yeah.
so I went on and I watched some of the videos. I was very impressed.
Really?
Very kind of Beatles like, very musical band.
Yes. They yes. Yes, they got influenced by Beatles so heavily. Yes. And back then, it was rare for Japanese music scene that
Mm,
a band who played like Beatles.
right. Yeah, and there were, I believe there were 5 pieces, right? There was 2 guitars, a bass,
Yes,
keyboard,
five
and a
pieces.
drummer.
Bass.
Y
Yes. Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
and you talk
yes.
about spending money on your allowance to go to these concerts, and there you have to take a train to get there and go stay at hotels to sit, and you were anxious, but then when he had passed and there was a reunion tour, how you didn't know how they were gonna
Yes.
not have him be displayed and how they were gonna honor his memory, and you almost didn't go, but you were glad that you went.
Yes. I really didn't think I would go because I couldn't imagine how Tulip sound would sound without Toshiyuki Abe. I think the I think he was the core of the band. he was the essence of the Tulip's music. So without him, Tulip was would be completely different from
Hmm.
what I had known for such a long time. So I was sort of scared to listen to the new Tulip without him, and I knew I would be very disappointed their sound because they supplemented the guitarist, other guitarist from outside, and he the new guitarist was a total stranger for me. I never heard of that name, even his name. So how could he replace Mr. Abe? I was so skeptical, but after all, I thought I it was good to go there because I I understood what a big existence Mr. Abe was for that band. I recognized it again.
And your two songs that I listened to, I enjoyed very much. "Lousy Neighbor"
Oh,
is
thank
you
you,
kind of
thank
tell this.
you.
Yeah, I enjoyed them very much. "Lousy Neighbor" is you described this. You had a neighbor that was not friendly, and they were quite loud, and it's kind of got it's a very rocking kind of guitar centric 80s song, and really great kind of swing to
Yes,
it. And then your other song, Sunrise, is more of a kind of a reggae. They're
yeah,
very different,
yes, yes.
songs, but both very good.
Mhm. Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. Thanks again. Um, yeah, those two songs are quite different. I know the different approach from the arrangement side, but both songs are really what I heard in my head, and I
Hmm.
wanted to materialize it. So those are different, but exactly what I heard in my head when they came to me. So I was often asked, what genre are you playing, or what kind of music uh, do you make? But it's hard for me to answer that question because sometimes it's reggae, sometimes it's pop, sometimes it's rock. So it's just so confusing. Uh, but yeah, I what can I do because they are just um, sounding in my head. So
All too often,
there's
people want
nothing
to
I
put.
can do.
Yeah, I agree. All too often, people want to put artists in categories when the artists are just making art.
Yeah,
They're
that's
not thinking
right.
about that.
Yeah, that's right. I once saw my song Sunrise was categorized in a comic song or
Hmm.
comic song. It's a funny song
Right.
or
Comedic.
something.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, so maybe professionals, even professionals are hard to categorize my songs, I guess.
Yeah, let's leave that up to them. We'll just enjoy your art. That's what I say. You say you heard these songs in your head. So you heard the
Mhm.
lyrics and the music before you ever committed them to paper and to started to create them?
I usually they they come they come at once all together. Lyrics and melody,
Hmm.
they come together in my head, and but often they come together only a part of the songs, for the part of the songs.
Hmm.
So I just need add the rest of the lyrics to the melody. That was how I make my songs.
And how do they come to you? In a dream while you're walking? How do they come to you in your head? How do you hear them?
Uh, Anytime.
Huh.
I mean, it just it just came, just assaults me.
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes it's um, while I'm walking, or sometimes while I'm eating, or it comes before I go to bed. And as you said, it sometimes comes when I'm sleeping, and I jumped out of the bed and scribbled on the paper, scribble on the paper, not to forget the melody and lyrics.
But I know that you took several years to make these songs. So how when you hear it in your
Yes.
head, you hear it in your head and then you keep trying and you keep iterating to get it to that point. How did you remember? I mean, after years, how did you remember this is what I want it to be?
Uh, um, yeah, for some reason, I never forget how,
Wow.
because yeah, it keeps coming to my head. It it
Hmm.
plays again and again. I can rewind or
Wow.
fast forward anytime. So it just keeps ringing in my head. So there's no way for me to forget it. It's just the melody and the lyrics. Those are uh, easy and fast for me to write. But uh, the the longest time I take is the arrangement. I make all the parts: drums, guitars, keyboards, strings, orchestration. I make everything. So that takes a lot of time for me to complete. And maybe I was the person who take the longest time to complete one song in the world.
It was
I
about
know
10
it.
years, correct?
Yeah, about 10 years. One song per 10 years. So,
Wow. Wow.
uh, so,
And are you diligently
uh,
working on it every day? Are you walking away for a week at a time and coming back? What's the process over that time?
uh, it's not easy to concentrate all the time to focus on my music, because for me to make music consumes energy and time and passion, and
Hmm.
uh, so much it consumes so much from me. So I just can't work that long at a time. So maybe 2 or 3 days a week at tops. That was my limitation to focus to make music. And other time, I write my books or blog or something to promote my music. So basically, um, no wonder my music doesn't sell because I take too much time to complete just one song, I guess.
But Hidemi, you're a true artist because it seems to me you're always creating, even between the times that you're writing your songs or creating your songs. You're writing books, you're writing blogs. You're
Hmm.
constantly
Hmm.
creating.
Hmm. Yeah, because that was the only thing I can do. I can't do anything other than creating. I'm so clumsy. I am such a clumsy person, and
You're clumsy.
I'm yeah I'm not good at there's there are not so many things I'm good at, and maybe music or other creating is the only thing I can do on in this world. I'm
Well,
I'm
you're
not
also
good at anything else.
I might question that. It seems you're a very good writer, that's for sure. In your videos
Oh,
for your songs, "Lousy Neighbor" and "Survive," you have this walking
mhm.
teddy bear in both of them. Why is
Yeah.
that? What's the meaning?
Well, basically, I'm not pretty, so I don't want to be exposed to the public. So this is the big moment for me. You can imagine that.
Certainly.
Uh, and I hate my looks, so I don't want
Oh,
to hide from the camera, any cameras, and and instead of myself, I asked my teddy bear to show up on um, in the front of the camera and walk in place of me. And she said, yes, that's why she is walking in my video along with my music instead of me.
I say. Well, I think you're beautiful, but I'm glad your teddy bear said yes.
Yeah, yeah, I was lucky. And they and I'm a big fan. I'm a big collector of stuffed animals. I love stuffed
Ah,
animals. I'm not good at being with real people, so I usually talk to my stuffed animals rather than actual people.
and
I'm weird. I know.
all artists are a little weird. I'm gonna say everybody's a little weird, but what's really fascinating about you to me is that your parents it was an
Hmm.
arranged marriage and you were
Yes.
you were made to be their successor, but you refused. You turned down to
Yes.
be the successor and take on the family business, get a lot of money, and they tried everything they could to convince you to turn you, even to go as so far as to make a record label. You hired people, you got everybody together, and then they pulled the money out and bankrupt it just to try to convert you, and you didn't. And to this day, I mean, they disown you. They don't talk to you, and but still, because you realize that you need to be an artist and it's who you are, and you need to be true to yourself. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. I wish my parents uh, understood me when I was young and I wanted to what I am now, but unfortunately, they didn't agree at all and they didn't um, understand what I want to be. So they just stubbornly refused
Mm.
to even to listen to me. So there was no way for them to but disown me, and that was a really difficult decision for my side too. But because leaving home meant uh, throw away, throwing away um, every privilege I would be promised, and probably I see them wouldn't see them again in the rest of my life. But I couldn't stay home and keep doing what my parents told me to. And there was no choice but leaving home. And so, but to this day, they, my parents don't um, agree with me. So we completely cut ties now. And I haven't seen them in years and talked to them in years. But I'm quite I ever since I left home, I felt happy. And I mean, because I know I'm doing what I wanted to do. So even though I've been um, financially, I've been in financial difficulty all the way until now because I threw away what my parents um, promised me to give. But I'm content with what I became because I'm doing what I wanted to do. And not everyone can do. Some people had to obey their parents, especially in Japan. It was um, old back in old days was so difficult to disobey their parents. The parents were the um, was the law for
Hmm.
all the Japanese people. So they were um, they were not willing, but um, they had they had to stay home and do what their parents told them to. And I think it's an old Japanese tradition. So lately, it has been changing. Young Japanese people don't live like that.
Hmm.
But in my case, I was born in a very local, small town where the Japanese old customs remained. So sick. So it was hard for me to leave home. But my grandparents was my grandparents were supporters
Oh, good.
of me. Yeah, I spent a lot of time with my um, grandparents because my parents were busy for working on the field in the daytime. So I spent the daytime with my grandparents who raised me instead of my parents. And so they were, my grandparents are so strict, so discipline oriented persons. And I was tense all, eh, all the time with them. So I really hated them because
Hmm.
they were just so strict. But uh, when I grew up and when I decided to become a musician, they agreed with me. They gave me. They said I could go. I could leave home, and they said that was because they had been watching me for such a long time, and they had known me. So you can go, they said. And they persuaded my parents. So even though I hated my grandparents all the time, um, it was thanks to them I was able to leave home and to become a musician. I owed them.
That's wonderful. And you also talk about as a youth going from Osaka to Tokyo. How Tokyo was this big city, and it was so fast and big, and a lot of people. And then
Mhm.
going there was it was scary for you.
Yeah, it was scary. I've seen Tokyo only in TV shows, TV dramas back in Japan. So yeah, to me, Tokyo was almost a fictional city,
Hmm.
and so when I left for Tokyo, I felt like I was jumping in a TV show, and I felt like I I was going to live in a fiction world, and so scary, but so excited, scared and excited at the same time. Because jumping in a TV show, can you imagine? Yeah, but yeah, as it turned out, actually, not fiction. Tokyo existed, but it was a lot different from Kyoto, where I was born and grew up. The the way of speaking, the language, even language was different. And
Hmm.
every time I talk to people in Tokyo, they uh, they asked me back because they didn't understand what I was saying. So my I'm talking uh, to this day. I'm talking in a Japanese Western dialogue, a dialect. So it's completely different from Tokyo's Japanese. So they constantly, I beg your pardon, what did you say? I I didn't think at first. I thought I was in a foreign country or something. I came abroad, not to Tokyo. I I thought I got on a bullet train, but it was the the plane. I thought,
But you stayed in your own country and they still felt like foreigners to you.
yeah, that exactly what how I felt when I first came to Tokyo. Was such a different world from what I knew.
One thing that you said about your parents that made me sad, but then you kind of turned it around. After their treatment of you, you started questioning and doubting unconditional love. But then you related
Mhm.
unconditional love to your songs and how you would treat them that way, and you want to let them go, and you'd want them to be, part of you but away from you. Has that changed at all, your viewpoint on unconditional love?
No, it hasn't. I think some people can give unconditional love because they believe it was the way the
Hmm.
loving is. But um, but to me, it was such a precious, blessed, privileged thing to be given the unconditional love. Because my parents' love that I received was all somewhat conditional. You are a successor, so we love you, like that.
Hmm.
So I watched um, the watched them for a long time, and I learned that they their love is always uh, something through a filter of some conditions. And I found out one day, and it couldn't remove from my thinking or the way of looking at my parents. So
Hmm.
I think
Well,
it was, yeah, they, as you said before, um, they got married with an arranged marriage, and it was back in those days in Japan. It was quite a common uh, practice, and especially the the area where I grew up was local, remote, rural town, small, rather village, so to speak. So was they the neighbors were also arranged marriage couples, and they married. They got they got married with upon some conditions to begin with. So there was no um,
hmm.
space of question that they applied some condition to their own children.
Hmm.
Was like a natural thing for them to do because they uh, got married with. conditions in to begin with.
Yeah, it's what was expected.
So
Another sorry.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
sorry. I think
Another thing
they
yeah.
I think they really try to. I think they don't think they don't love their own children. They
Mm,
loved their children in their own way.
right.
They thought that was the right way to give love. They didn't notice that they uh, conditional their conditional love. But to me, it was clear um, if I unless I qualify some um, some condition they uh, offer to me, I wouldn't be loved. I learned that from my experience. Maybe it was only my parents.
Mm. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but that like you said, they do love just in their own way. The other very
Mhm,
interesting thing in your book that I didn't know just about Japanese culture, how you talk about New Year's Day and how it's the most, it's the biggest
mhm,
celebrated holiday of the year and the dream that you have if it has three items, if it has Mount Fuji, eggplant, and a hawk, that it's incredible and that it really helps. And you also there's a bell rings 108 times for the worldly desires of each person. It's
mhm,
amazing cultural
mhm.
happenings there that I have no familiarity with.
Oh, really? Um, uh, I'm just amazed at how much you've read or listened to my music or read what I wrote beforehand. I really appreciate it. I'm so touched, to be honest, and um, because um, you read a lot of things what I wrote, and now I learned that, and so I'm so grateful. And about that cultural thing you are not familiar with, it's, yeah, it's really ordinary thing Japanese people do every year that um, to try to hear 108 bells that the uh, temple uh, temples uh, uh, bell was rung, and not many people live ne- uh, close enough to a temple. So only fortunate people actually can hear 108 bells. But they try to, some of the bell rings to, to go to the temple as soon as the new year begins, or try to listen to them on TV, live coverage, through the live coverage. And it's, yeah, it's a long time culture of Japanese. And also that three items that are supposed to bring luck to you. Uh, and Japanese people like jinx so much.
Mm.
They they tend to believe what they don't see, and they like it, and they really like spiritual things. And I think their spirituality was the big reason for those many uh, items or bells or anything that can bring luck or bring happiness to them. They want to believe it.
It's amazing to me. And you talk about also how you had some numbers in your head and you went to go play them in the lottery and it didn't end up winning, but
You
how
read that too.
yeah, and how you it's an excellent book. I really enjoyed it. And I enjoy culture, and you do a really good job not only at writing but at also speaking it. I really enjoyed it. But it's amazing to me how what you said right there, they tend to believe what they don't see. That's so fascinating to me.
Really,
It's
yeah.
so fascinating.
Mm.
Mm,
Japanese people are spiritual.
yeah,
Yeah,
very
so
spiritual.
I guess they like, for instance, the the mascots, like big stuffed animals that person is in it and move around like a football team's mascot or baseball team's mascot. Those characters are rampant in Japan. They really like them.
Hmm.
So many kinds of mascots are walking around all over Japan.
Wow.
They just love it, love them. So, so they really love the thing they can't see.
Mm,
They they're seeing the mascots, but it's they don't speak. They just move. So, and that was um, the aspect that attracts Japanese people, I guess. They
very interesting.
By seeing them, they imagine what that mascot is thinking or that mascot is talking in
Wow.
their mind. And imagining those things just fascinates fascinates Japanese people, I think.
Amazing. So, Hidemi, on the podcast, we talk about discipline. I gained a lot of weight. I started a business. Doctor said, you better lose the weight. You're not going to see
Hmm.
your daughter graduate. So I lost a lot of weight. And people ask me how I did it. And
Hmm.
I always say discipline and focus. How does discipline, you mentioned that your
Hmm.
grandparents were very disciplined, very strict.
Yes.
Do you consider yourself a
Hmm.
disciplined person?
I I think I am now, but I used to be a not disciplined person because uh, while my grandparents are strictly discipline oriented couple, yeah, especially my grandmother, she was like an embodiment of discipline. They
Hmm.
she disciplined everything. And
Wow.
um, for instance, uh, how I move or how I walk, how I eat, how I speak, how I sit. She disciplined every single move I made. So
Wow.
um, re- um, if I if I derail from her disciplined things, she scolded me so harshly. So I was
Hmm.
scared of my grandmother, especially. And my grandfather was also like disciplined. So as a child, I was a seemingly, seemingly a disciplined child. But the thing, the thing was, my parents were opposite from my grandparents. They
Wow.
were loose, yeah, they were loose and mm, not lazy, but really undisciplined couple.
Interesting.
And yeah, in the daytime, I lived with my grandparents. I spent the daytime with my grandparents. And after dark, my parents came home from working at the fields as farmers. And from evening, my life with my parents started. Then, all of a sudden, everything changed. They didn't discipline me at all. I
Hmm.
could do whatever I could, and they didn't scold me. How I uh, behaved badly, they just laughed at me and didn't say a thing. So, in a way, I led a double life as a child.
Wow.
So, sometimes it was confusing which was right, which was wrong, because when you are a child, parents are everything. So, but I felt as a child, my parents were somehow wrong. I sensed it. And although I didn't like my grandparents at all, I sensed my grandparents were right. The discipline was right. I sensed it. So I think I was inside myself, I was divided. One side of me was disciplined person, and the other side was such a loose person. And I lived that double life for such a long time. So it was coexisted inside my body. And then when I left home and I started to live by myself alone in a small apartment in Tokyo, I was freed by my grandparents. My grandparents' strict rules didn't exist anymore. So when I lived by myself, I enjoyed that freedom so much, maybe too much. And so I was able to eat whatever I wanted the way how whatever I wanted to eat, like eating while singing or crouching, anything I could do because I was living alone and my grandparents weren't around me anymore.
Hmm.
So I really enjoyed, at first, I really enjoyed discipline free life in Tokyo. But everything turned weirdly bad.
Hmm.
I mean, without any discipline, I enjoyed my freedom. That was fun. But I gained weight, and for somehow my health also um, turned bad. I caught a cold so often, or really, I my health became bad. I'm fat. I'm not healthy, and somehow even my music career, didn't go well.
Wow.
And I think somehow those things, everything was connected
Hmm.
in some way. And apart from my looks or my bad health, music career, my music career was really a serious matter for me because I left home, I um, left all the privilege of being a successor of the old family just to pursue my music career. But undisciplined life, undisciplined days was ruining my career itself. So it was a big irony for me. And I, one day I found out I had to do something. I need to clean up my act. And the what I wondered what was going on to me. What why everything went was going wrong suddenly after I left home.
Hmm.
And I noticed it was my grandparents' discipline. Without it,
Wow.
everything was going wrong. And I um, decided to discipline myself in my own way, just little by little. Not that extreme way of my grandparents, but in my own way, small things. I try to apply small discipline, easy discipline, starting from easy one to me, and it, it worked.
Hmm.
It worked. Yeah, everything was not so rosy, but it was going better and better. The more I disciplined myself, the better the things around me was going.
Hmm.
So from my own experience, I really think discipline is important. And ever since I found that secret of discipline, I think I became a self-disciplined person
Hmm.
now. I hope.
That's a fascinating turn. I've never heard discipline, you know, portrayed that way. That's really really wonderful. Uh, Hidemi Woods, what motivates you?
What motivates me? Um, to to create something, create best things. Um, hmm. uh, I I always hope that my creation, music or writing, either way, I hope to influence people in some
Mm,
way, and I always imagine that would be wonderful that a person who was who is desperate, in despair, and is going to kill himself or herself soon
mm.
happens to listen to my music and changes their mind. That would be wonderful, I think. And I think to influence someone like that, to give them hope, or yeah, um, their um, piece of fun
Mm.
would help them, help someone desperate. So I think um, music or writing or any creation has that kind of power, I believe. And basically, creation was the, as I said before, the only thing I could do in this world. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. But I had no choice but um, to create something good enough to influence someone is my motivation, I think. And every time I used to write music for um, fame and money, to be honest, as a young and stupid person. But
Undisciplined.
now I'm writing, I'm creating now for much more, mm, much much higher thing.
Mm.
I'm not a religious person, but I know something exists above us, and I guess I write songs for what I don't see, but I feel, and because something good, when something good happens to you, you feel you feel why it happens to me, because there's no obvious reason that good things happen to you, but they happen to you sometimes. So it was like something make makes them happen to you, right?
Mm, mhm,
Then I feel happy with that um, joyful occurrence. So I want to
hmm,
repay for what happened to me, to something or someone or anything, something I don't see, but I want to repay it. And and whatever I write, I feel like there is more space to improve myself, improve my work, and I like to continue to um, get higher levels of my creation. Maybe it sounds greedy, but I really want to um, keep keep making best of my creation. That was really a challenge, lifelong challenge, but it worth challenging. And I think that's the main motivation I have for my creation.
in chapter 3, you tell the story of your parents, and then you come to the realization and you share with the reader that the illusion that money brings happiness, it's just an illusion. So going along with what you
Mhm.
said and what your motivations are, how do you measure success, Hidemi?
Um, Success is not fame nor money. Success is um, hmm, su- success is um, uh, success is uh, keep yourself going toward your own goal.
Mm,
It depends on your goal, but keep trying is um, is a blessed thing. I think not everyone can keep trying. They sometimes they give up, but if you luckily, fortunately, have enough strength in yourself, you can keep trying. And that um, that process of trying is success, I think, because the result is not important. It's all whether you try or not. You try or you give up.
mm.
And if you decide to try, that's success. I think so. I believe so.
Well,
But
well
it, I
said.
know it's, I know it's difficult. So, but I think I once really craved for fame and money.
Mm,
I, I'm just a greedy artist. But when I finished Sunrise, one of my songs, you hard you listen
Yes.
to it for me. Um, when I uh, completed that song, I gave everything I've got to that song.
Mm,
I When I completed that song, that was the best of myself, and
mm,
I thought I couldn't do any better than that.
wow.
That was the most I did, I could possibly could do, and that feeling was so unbelievably
Mm,
happy. I completed and something that I got out, took out everything from myself. And when it was done, I really cried for
mm,
listening to my own song. It's stupid, but I couldn't help it.
wow.
And I couldn't forget that sensation, that feeling. I had never been happier than that moment. And so I think I want to repeat that sensation. And
Mm,
that also motivates me to your former question as the answer to your question. And the thing was, Sunrise, that song didn't sell at all. I put everything of myself, but it was ignored completely. It didn't give me money nor fame. And I thought I, I was I thought I would be very, very disappointed at it. I couldn't take it,
mm,
but unexpectedly it woke me up. I found out why I was making music. That was when I realized creation was not for, shouldn't be for fame or money.
mm,
So I, that, from that experience, uh, I, my definition of success has changed completely
mm,
because I felt so much happiness when that song was completed. So the following things, that whether it will sell or it will make me rich, wasn't important anymore at all. I felt that much happiness, and I realized, I woke up. I just knew how, why I was going to keep creating from now on. So that was how um, I realized the meaning of success in my own way.
mm, mm. Hidemi Woods, an absolute pleasure talking with you. I was so excited when you accepted this. I love your music. I
Oh,
love your writing. I want you to continue it. I want you to keep
thank you.
creating and keep growing. And I am sure that Mr. Tashuki Abe would be proud of what you do.
Uh-huh.
Because it's right from your heart. How can we get in touch with you? Whoever's listening.
Well, I have my website, hidemiwoods.com. Hidemi, Hidemi, woods.com. There, all links are there. Links to my music, my songs, and my books, both physical books and ebooks, and my blog and my podcast, uh, reading and talking from Japan. So come see me if you are interested. hidemiwoods.com.
Absolutely. The website has everything, and her two songs, Lousy Neighbor and Sunrise, are on Spotify. I listen to on Spotify.
Yes.
They're on Apple Tunes. You can go and listen to them there. But really, it all starts from the website where you have your lyrics, you have the videos, you have your writing, you have blogs. You just put one out last week. You're constantly writing. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for. I know it's late there or early in the morning. I
Oh,
appreciate
the
that.
pleasure is absolutely mine. The pleasure is absolutely mine. Thanks for having me here. So great to be here and great to talk to you.
Fantastic. And if I make my way out there to Tokyo to Japan, I'll be sure to look you up and we'll have some tea and have a good laugh and listen to some more music. Thank you so much.
Yeah, please do. I welcome you in person. So let me know. Please
I will do
come.
so. Thank you so much, Demi Woods. I appreciate it. You be well. Sayonara. Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations.